Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty fascinating and honestly kind of daunting dynamic: how massive systemic pressures quietly and subtly erode our personal identity. We're going to explore a philosophical framework designed to help you hold on to your moral compass, especially when absolutely everything around you is pulling you in the exact opposite direction. So let's just jump right in with a deeply personal question. Who do you actually become when you're operating inside massive institutions, corporations, or cultures? I mean, we all like to think of ourselves as these fixed, unwavering individuals, right? But the truth is, these environments have a massive gravitational pull. To anchor this whole exploration, check out this insight from Simon Sinek. He says, instilling discipline isn't about showing others who's the boss. It's about being responsible for those in our charge. I absolutely love this because it completely flips the script. It frames our actions not as some loud display of power, but as a quiet, steady responsibility to others. Just keep that idea in your back pocket as we unpack how systems try to strip that exact responsibility away. Section 1. The pull of the system. You see, systemic pressure is creeping. It's almost invisible. It doesn't start with some dramatic movie villain ultimatum. Actually, it usually starts with tiny, entirely reasonable-sounding compromises. Just, softening an edge here, letting a little thing go there. Seth Godin had this devastating realization about this. Immense harm doesn't actually require evil villains. It just needs a legible incentive structure that points everyone in the wrong direction. A system just has to be coherent. If it makes logical sense from the inside, people will just follow along. To put that into perspective, let's look at a historical example. In 1846, exactly 70,000 people were employed in the American whaling fleet. Think about that number for a second. That is a massive, completely coherent system organizing millions of dollars and tens of thousands of lives towards staggering ecological destruction. And how did it happen? Merely by everyone waking up, understanding the value of whale oil, and just doing their expected jobs. No villains required, just everyday people following the system's logical next step. Section 2, the chameleon versus the coach. So, how do we actually survive inside these high-pressure, coherent environments? Well, we face this intense daily tension. On one side, you have Robert Greene's chameleon strategy, which says, manage your image or it will manage you. Adapt to your surroundings. It's highly pragmatic, right? But on the flip side, we have legendary UCLA coach John Wooden. His strategy? Be yourself through the turbulence. He argued that your identity absolutely must precede your performance, because without a stable self, the performance just eventually consumes you.
Looking at those two strategies side by side, we really have to ask ourselves a tough question. In our own lives, where exactly is the line? Where does the pragmatic need to, adapt to our workplace cross over into slowly losing our fundamental identity? Where does prudent flexibility actually turn into quiet self-betrayal?
Section 3, the trap of incremental compromise. To truly understand the horror of crossing that line, let's turn to the ancient world, specifically the philosopher Seneca and his slow moral erosion at the court of the Emperor Nero. Historians James Romm and Ryan Holiday mapped out this chilling progression, and it shows exactly how good people end up doing terrible things step by step. Step 1. Seneca swallows his true feelings just to return from exile. Pragmatic enough, right? Step 2. He stays completely quiet while watching Nero literally fix the Olympics. Step 3 is the fatal plunge. He actually helps write a speech justifying Nero's murder of his own mother. And by step 4, he's passively standing aside while the ruling class faces humiliation in the arena. The flexibility of his role had slowly, inevitably become the fatal flexibility of his self. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that every time you bend your principles for a system, it never stops there. It creates a precedent. It literally sets the stage for the next inevitable ask. As Ryan Holiday points out, moral compromise is never a single act. It is an ongoing, relentless erosion. Section 4. Carrying our inherited debt. Now, zooming out from the individual level for a second, we also have to reckon with the generational scale of the systems we inherit, because we don't enter these systems with a blank slate. There's a profound example of this from the writer Ralph Ellison. When he was walking through Harvard, he saw the names of Union dead carved into marble, young men who died for his freedom, and he felt the immense anguish of carrying an enormous debt. He didn't choose it, he certainly didn't sign a contract for it, but it was his, and he couldn't just walk away from it. Building on that heavy realization, Albert Schweitzer framed his life's work in Africa not as some optional charity, but as atonement. Atonement is a heavy, load-bearing obligation to balance the scales of our unearned benefits. Unlike charity, which is, a choice you make when you're feeling generous, atonement is a duty. It does not ask permission, and it certainly doesn't wait until you're comfortable or less busy. To manage this heavy load, Ryan Holiday uses the Stoic dichotomy of control to break this debt down into two directions. First, we have backward debt. This is about reckoning honestly with what our ancestors built and at whose expense. Our museums have looted goods, our progress has environmental costs, and look, we cannot change the actions of the past. But then, we have forward debt. This is paying forward the lessons learned from others' great personal cost. We don't control the past, but doing better in the present, that is entirely up to us. Section 5. You are what you do. All right, so we've explored the tensions between being a chameleon and a coach, between past debts and future choices. So how do we actually resolve this daily struggle? Well, Aristotle hit the nail on the head. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. This is the ultimate measure. Your true identity isn't that shiny image you project to your boss. It's not even the noble principles you claim to hold. It's the actual repeated pattern of the habits you form within the system. Excellence is a habit, and as we saw with those 19th century whalers, harm is a habit too. Let's bring it all back to that Simon Sinek quote from the very beginning, about being responsible for those in our charge. Look at how far that definition actually extends. Yes, for sure, it's your students, your kids, your direct reports, but it's also the nameless, unseen people who have to live in the world that your habits are building. It literally includes those not yet born who will end up inheriting the weight of your actions. John Wooden used to tell his players, make each day your masterpiece. And guys, this isn't just some fluffy motivational poster for the office break room. It's a profound daily practice. It's the discipline of returning to your moral compass, making the active choice of who you're going to be, and refusing to hide behind busy work to avoid the quiet, essential work of integrity. It's simply the daily discipline of showing up well. So as we wrap up this explainer, the next time you face a small, seemingly harmless compromise at work, I want you to stop and ask yourself, what habits are you building today and who are you slowly becoming inside your system? Thank you so much for exploring this with me, and I challenge you to go out and make today your masterpiece.